passage?
I would love to read one.
Thank you.
The one I thought I would begin with kind of explains one of the reasons I decided to write these things down, and that was, if I don't, I will forget them, because I forget everything. This is the first story in the book, and this is called Mnemonia. Just ran into a neighbor in the Acme supermarket. She was warm, friendly, and obviously knew who I was. I know this because she called me by name. As I stood there, squirming by the freezer case, 10 different names for this woman crossed my mind. Jenny, Jeannie, Joni, Bob. Well, maybe not Bob. I ended the conversation, which was filled with references to a husband and kids whose names I also could not recall, by calling her Honey. This was a cop-out, though not out of character for me. I am a sweetie honey sayer by nature. In this regard, I would do well as a waitress at the Melrose Diner. More coffee, hun? Anyhow, I walked away from the encounter distressed. On to the cereal aisle, where I stood for several minutes trying to summon up my daughter Julie's special request. Mini Wheats? Frosted Flakes? All Bran? Well, maybe not All Bran. Oh, I made a grocery list. I just didn't remember to bring it. At the checkout counter, I rifled through my purse frantically looking for A, my Acme SuperCard, B, my American Express card, and C, my car keys. All were located, but my concern was understandable, as I have left these 3 items on counters all over southeastern Pennsylvania at one time or another. To cap off this adventure in amnesia, I pushed the shopping cart up and down the lot looking for my car. How hard could it be to find an Elantra? Pretty darn hard, when as it turned out, I had driven the minivan to the store. I realize this malady is not uncommon with my fellow members of Club Menopause. Many of us enter rooms for unknown reasons, pour milk for absent children, wash our hair twice in the shower, just to be on the safe side. But for me, the sad thing is, I used to have a really good memory. Really. I could recall entire conversations from years past. What I wore on my first date with my husband, Steve. My telephone number from 1961. And now, gone with the wind. It took me quite a while to avail myself of various mnemonic devices, you know, the little tricks that prop up a failing brain. And most of these I still forget to use. One idea I did embrace. I kept journals for each of the kids when they were tiny, so I would have a record of their cute sayings and doings. For years, they stayed securely in a bookcase in our room. As I write this, I have just found the journals after a panicky 24 hours of combing the house for them. They had migrated, quite logically, to the attic, under the Christmas ornaments. Of course. Where else? What we remember and what fades away fascinates me. It has nothing to do with desire, I've concluded. How else to explain that 27 years after her death, I can no longer recall the sound of my sister Maureen's voice? Yet the lyrics and tune of a 27-year-old McDonald's jingle remain ever fresh. How can I quote the children's plays as Steve writes, chapter and verse, yet always leave the oven on during dinner? Always. It's quite annoying. Where was I going with this? Just a second. Oh, yeah. When I was little, I had what I firmly believed was a very strong memory of being in heaven before my birth. There were the requisite clouds and angels and a very benevolent grandpa-ish God. Apparently, I got to request my parents and was sent down to earth on something resembling a playground slide. And for a while, this memory was as real to me as anything I knew. I knew that God had loved me before I was born. At some point, I let go of this vision of paradise, teeming with babies placing orders for their future families. But I never let go of the feeling of being loved before I could love anyone myself. Loved by my parents, certainly, but also loved by someone else before, during, and after this life. So I hold on to the feeling and the sense that I am me and no one else for a reason, whatever that reason might be. And as I stumble and slip absent-mindedly through this world, I sometimes wander into a profound truth that I may be adding something memorable to the human story just by living my life. God is using me daily, and if ever there was a leaky vessel for his grace, brother, this is it. Nevertheless, he finds a way to continue the story through me. One of my favorite hymns is a relatively new one. Our church music director, Ken, plays it every Maundy Thursday. The title of it is God Remembers, and the lyrics remind us that God remembers pain, God remembers love, God remembers us. And if God remembers, maybe I can relax when I forget.